Hey everybody, this is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and today we thought we'd give you guys a treat and share with you a dealer document that we got from a dealership in California and go through all the papers. So this is all the secret stuff that the dealer kept. This is the stuff that the customer did not see. Obviously, you saw your window sticker, or more correctly, the Maroni label, which no one ever calls it. Everybody calls it a window sticker. But yeah, I mean, that's what you got. But this has like the invoices in it, has like all the sales receipts, has a bunch of really, really cool information. And we're doing a Barracuda this morning. It's a really early build car. It's kind of funny, like I've cleaned out a lot of dealerships in, the Washington and West Coast area, and like all the early, it seems like every dealer got like one really, really early Barracuda. So this one, the VIN on it is BH23. B is for Barracuda, H is for high trim, which was the base on a Barracuda. 23 is two-door hardtop, GOE, G is 318 two-barrel, 1970 is the year, 0 is 19, blah. 0 is 1970, the model year. E is the plant, which is LA plant, and the VIN is 100357. And yes, that means it was the 357th car off the line, which is not entirely true. They didn't build these things in order, but it's a real early VIN car. So probably first day or two of production, when they were just trying to punch some cars out to get them out the door. We're going to go through some really cool information on this, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So a little background here. So we've been kind of, me and my brother, a couple other friends in the hobby too, specifically Dan Pausch. He's a good friend of mine down in Las Vegas, and we kind of keep a registry of these cars. And we got a hold of an old Chrysler dealer list from 1970, and basically when we go on road trips, we try to knock on doors and try to find these old closed down dealerships, see if we can find paperwork. And the reason I get this stuff is, well, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, the main primary reason why I love going through this stuff is we try to reunite this paperwork with cars. And I know I'm going to get a bunch of messages here asking, hey, do you have the paperwork for my car? Do you have the paperwork for my car? Do you have the paperwork for my car? Again, guys, this is a needle in a haystack situation. So California in 1970 had like hundreds and hundreds of dealers. And all over the country, there was thousands and thousands of Chrysler dealers. They made over 1 million cars. So the chances of me having the paperwork for your car are very, very low, unfortunately. I wish I could. This stuff's great. I've reunited a couple pieces of paperwork. There was a 67 Barracuda we found that Mopar's 5150 was selling that we reunited. We've reunited a couple other pieces through here. So that's great. So if you know that your car was sold at this dealership, which is Duarte and Whiting, please contact me. If it wasn't, chances are I probably don't have it, unfortunately, but it kind of just is what it is. So but yeah, this is basically the secret dealer packet that no one ever saw. So these are the car invoices. This is what the dealer paid. This is what the customer paid. There's just some really cool information on these. So let me just kind of go through here. I'm going to decode a bunch of these sheets. There's invoices. I have like the order form that the person actually like ordered the car from. There's a lot of really cool information on here. So this is just the car invoice from the dealer. So this is Barracuda, two-door hardtop, new, inventory number. It was the third car in that year, so a real early one. I'm sure this was in the initial order that the dealer made. Here's all the options, which I'm not going to go through this stuff. I'm going to decode it when I get the invoice, but it does have some cool options. This is California emissions, deluxe wheel covers, really small tires, E78 14s with a white wall. So those things were tiny. So this customer paid $31.48.14 out the door. I do not believe they traded in a car, so they paid cash on delivery and made payments, 36 months of payments at $63.03 a piece, and they financed $1,072.51. And payment started on 11/3. This car came in on 9/4/69 to the dealership, and it was sold on 9/24/69. So really wasn't on the lot too long. A lot of these early cars they would order in like high impact paint colors and some of that stuff. They'd put some cool options on them too, just to get them, so people could see them. This one's actually kind of boring. It's a bench seat and the vinyl side molding, which is kind of ugly. No one seems to like that. The color on this one was actually Citron Mist, which is actually, I just said they order cars in bright colors. This was actually the complete opposite of that. Bench seat, vinyl side molding, and Citron Mist was Y4, kind of a medium gold. So, but yeah, here's the purchase order, which basically has most of the information you had on the other one. I'm putting off the person's name and address because I don't want people to see that on the internet. All right, here's a Maroni label. This is one of the coolest pieces of documentation on a car. So the dealer would usually keep one copy, and then the other one was posted on the car that the customer was supposed to keep. This was, a lot that came in because dealers were, taking advantage of people. So they would have to put, this is basically the MSRP of the car, manufacturer's suggested retail price, and it would just let the customer know what the prices were. So they couldn't you know, just raise prices on stuff above the factory without the customer knowing. So this one's pretty cool. It's a very early build car. So final assembly point, Los Angeles assembly plant. There's the full VIN, which we went over earlier. So the SO number, so this is the unique number for each car. So this was the internal number for Chrysler to keep track of the cars. So 820 was the SPD, and I believe on the Los Angeles plant, 818 was the first scheduled production date. And again, these cars were not built in order, but this one was scheduled 2 days after the first day to go. E is the assembly plant, B is the first letter of the VIN, and that's the vehicle order number there, which matches the order sheet, which I'll show you here in a second. Which is kind of neat. But keep in mind, like, this is the unique number for Chrysler. This is the internal number. All this stuff was unique to every car. No car could repeat that. The vehicle order number was unique to the VIN. So it was unique to the 1970 Barracuda. But you could have a Challenger that could have the same vehicle order number. But all this together would make a unique number for the car. Color code right here is Y4. If it had a vinyl top, it would have another 2-digit code past there. This one didn't. It was a non-vinyl top car. Trim code is H4XW. That is a white bench seat. So H is high trim, 4 is bench seat, X is black, W is white. So it's black and white interior. You didn't have a whole white interior because they didn't want the dash to be white and everything. So the seats were white, door panels were white, a bunch of that kind of stuff. 06819 is the dealer number for Duarte and Whiting, California. Interesting enough, if you see dealer numbers that start with a 0, that means that they were founded before they kind of consolidated and redid dealer numbers when DeSoto went out in 6061 and Valiant came in. They kind of scrambled all the dealer numbers on. So if you ever see a dealer number that starts with a 0, that means they were founded, before 1960, and a lot of times way before then. 73 next to that is the region code, which is basically the West Coast. Sold to, shipped to and sold to is Duarte Whiting, 825 Ferry Street, Martinez, California. The building's actually still there. They actually still have a sign up front. I've tried to buy that sign several times, and apparently I've been told it's not for sale. And the zip code right there. Okay, so now all the fun stuff here. So this is all the information. So BH23, obviously Barracuda 8-cylinder. It shows you the standard stuff that comes with it, which is honestly not much. The Barracuda was a pretty base car. 2865 was pretty cheap for a base MSRP. I mean, that's like reaching Duster A-body territory there. And it was standard with bucket seats. So if you got a bench seat, you actually had to pay for the bench seat. They made you pay for that, which is crazy. It was $16.50 to upgrade to a bench seat, but you actually had to pay for that. And again, 3-speed manual was standard on these things. You had to pay for the automatic. Had disc brakes on the front and power brakes, because you had to get power brakes with disc brakes. So that was 2 separate order codes and 2 separate charges. So it was $27.90 for the disc brakes and $42.95 for the power brakes. And again, you had to get those together. That was required. This had factory floor mats, which is pretty rare. You don't see those on a window sticker very often. They were $10.90. D34 is the torque flight transmission, which pretty much everybody got on these. Nobody wanted the 3-speed stick, and that was quite expensive at $202.05. Had a sure grip differential. That's a very unusual option on a 318 car. You don't see sure grip on there very often, so it's interesting that they ordered that. That was a $42.35 option. That was a fairly expensive one, actually. E44 is 318 engine. That was standard, so there's no cost to that. G15, tinted windshield only. That was $20.40. G33, chrome racing mirror, remote control left outside. That was $15.15. Very symmetrical there. That's kind of a neat option, the chrome racing mirror. It looks good. J55, undercoating and hood insulation pad. That was $16.60. And that was undercoating. They undercoated every car in the wheel wells, but that was, full undercoating all underneath, and then the hood insulator pad, which, reduced noise in the car a little bit. N95, evaporative emission controls. That was the, so the tank would vent into the trunk basically through this little contraption. So it wouldn't just vent gas off into the atmosphere. That was California emissions and required on every California car. That was $37.85. R11, radio, solid state AM. That was $61.55. Radios were pretty expensive back then, and that's just the base radio. V5X, body side vinyl molding black. Those things were hideous looking, but yeah, a lot of people got them because it did protect the sides of the car. W11 deluxe wheel covers. Instead of having the dog dishes, they wanted a little upgrade on the hubcaps. That was $21.30. It was a sold car, so that means it was ordered by the dealership. So the other code is Y16 for a sales bank car. That would be a car that was internally ordered at Chrysler and built, and then a dealer would buy it out of the sales bank to go to their dealership. So this car was, not ordered by a person. It would have been ordered by the dealership at the start of the year, but that would still be a sold car because the order was originated through the dealership. T26 is the tires. E78 14 white sidewall. So the E78 was the standard tire. That's a tiny tire for a Barracuda, but the white walls were an upgrade. So that was $26.45 for that. So the total MSRP was $3,436.40, and the destination charge was $153. That was the standard charge, just anywhere. It was $153 for no matter what plant it came from. So even though this came from LA plant in California, it would be the same charge for anywhere. It was built at Hamtramck in Detroit. They just standardized that stuff. That's just kind of how it worked. That's the signature of the guy who bought it, so he could say it was removed and he saw it. This date right here is interesting. So that's the date that this Maroni label was actually printed. So what's interesting is the car got delivered on 9/4. So the real early cars, a lot of these hadn't finalized the pricing yet. So they would get a window sticker or Maroni label that basically didn't have the correct prices on it because they didn't know them yet. So this was actually printed after the car left the factory and was at the dealership and was sent to them, which is real common on the early cars. But yeah, that was the Maroni label was printed on 9/19. That's what that means, September 19th. That is the transportation code. A couple guys, for example, Dan has kind of decoded these and figured these out. I don't know those off the top of my head, but E43 is the for the transportation to get to the dealer. And then total price right there. And then here's all the standard safety features, which they let them do. And there's nothing on the back, it's just blank. All right, let's go to more cool stuff. Have I mentioned that I love going through this stuff? I just love this stuff because it's a lot of this paperwork. The chances are, especially like on the C bodies. I mean, I have all the C bodies, all the A bodies. I have all the stuff for this car, for the car sold at Duarte and Whiting. I'm just doing the interesting ones because that's what people want to look at on YouTube. But I just love going through the history of this stuff. Like the chances are these cars aren't around anymore and they're crushed, and this is probably the only documentation left of this car. So this is really cool. So this is this kind of shows you how I mentioned that the window sticker was reprinted. So here's two different versions of this. Is the factory invoice. This is what was sent to the dealer. Not the customer didn't see this. This is what was sent to the dealer. So this one right here was printed on 8/25/69. As you can see, there was no prices on here. They had the destination charge, and there was a San Francisco Plymouth Advertising Association charge to the dealer. That didn't get the customer didn't pay that. That was what the dealer paid. And that's so there was no price in here. So they basically had to handwrite them on there till they figured out what it was. So there's the holdback. The inventory, that's what the floor charge was. The floor charge was the financing that the dealer did. So they would finance, usually through Chrysler or another company, to basically finance the cars on there. Then they'd have to figure out the interest every month and figure that out. So here's the factory wholesale price here. So if you can see on the window sticker, compare it. So the MSRP was $28.65. The factory wholesale price was $21.89.91. So that was the profit margin for the dealer. And it's the same thing on all these different options. There was a lot of, price differences because they were trying to make money on this. I'm not sure what the minus 79.62 was there. This is net adjustment credit memo. I'm not actually sure what that means. So it has, all the options, the list, the dealer. It's pretty much the same information on the window sticker I just went through, just in a little bit different format. They actually wrote the color on there, which is interesting. It had the key codes, which is kind of cool. So if the car left, they lost the keys, they'd have the key codes to remake the keys because those were, coded. EH and O, that's the, I think that's the margin for the factory, I think. I can't remember what that means. I've looked that up before, but it's EH and O, and then the wholesale price there. So, yeah, so kind of neat. Factory invoices printed twice. There's a lot of good information on these. This is one you hardly ever see, and this is probably one of my favorite pieces of paperwork, just because you can see how bad it was when the cars arrived. So this is the shipping notice. So there was commercial carriers by Romulus, Michigan. So this is the train that would bring it up to the San Francisco area, wherever they were dropped off in the Bay Area. Because Duarte and Whiting is in the Bay Area, kind of north of Oakland on the East Bay. So that's the root code. Remember on the Moroni label, it was E43. So that's the root code for that. But what they did is when the car came in, they had to check them out to see what was missing and see what wasn't missing. And these are always very entertaining. So it did arrive on 9/4, and boy, it's hard to read this. Hard to read the handwriting. It looks like the trunk mat was missing. The remote control mirror not washed. Missing. Too dirty for inspection. Subject to later. So they would do that a lot. So a car would come in. But I've seen a lot where they're like missing hubcaps, like mismatching tires. Like there's all sorts of interesting notes on when they came in. Yeah, there's this hole in trunk mat, and then the car came in real dirty. So they would just say, hey, subject to later inspection in case there's any scratches or anything. But I've seen some very entertaining stuff on these from multiple dealers and multiple ones from Duarte of the stuff that was missing or damaged when the car came in. So this is really neat. So this is the order form. This is the one you don't see very often. And I mean, there's a ton of cool stuff on here. The biggest takeaway from this is what I'll show you right here. So here's the, again, the Moroni label, which I got two more I want to show you here on the last little segment here. But see the vehicle order number right there? 018518, 018518. That's where your vehicle order number comes from. So if it was ordered at a dealership, either by the dealer or a specific customer, that's what your vehicle order name came from. It came from the order sheet. When that was turned in, that became your vehicle order number. The sheet's got a ton of good information on it. So basically at the start of each year, there would be a dealer reveal show where they would go to all the dealers from a certain region would go to the regional office. In this case, it would be San Francisco. And they would see the new models. And that's when they would make their initial orders. They would get order forms. They'd get a big packet of order forms, Barracuda, Fury, Belvedere, whatever. If they were a Plymouth Chrysler dealer, they would get all those. And then they would all have the dealer order number to get a big packet of these. So they'd have the original, a copy, and this is what they keep. So they'd send in the original and keep the copy. So on this one, again, it's really hard to read the writing, and I apologize. I'm not sure how to do this to be able to look better, but it actually says Duarte on there. So this was not a customer order car. It was ordered by the dealership. Still a sold car because it was still ordered, but it was by the dealership. So there's her name there. It's really hard to read. I think it's 6/30/69, I believe. There's a date there that says that as well. So here's all the orders. I mean, this is all the different stuff you order. The 4-speed manual. Here's the engine group. Here's the 426 Hemi. I mean, there's lots of cool stuff to order on this. Had the V5X, had the color. You ordered two-tone paint, vinyl top, transmission. Like all the fun stuff was here. Shoulder belts. You actually get rear shoulder belts on an e-body. They were extremely rare. Console, accessory floor mats, all the fun stuff. These are really neat to have. You don't see these very often. Sugar code. There was no prices on here because it didn't really matter when they were doing this. But yeah, there's a lot of really neat information on these. So this is the 70 Barracuda order sheet. It's car specifications for Schedule F Series. F Series was 1970. So E was 69 and G was 1971. This is unique just for 1970. And there was a lot of times, I know, especially in 69, they sent out new ones in the middle of the year. So the vehicle order numbers jump up to like 500,000, like 500,000, because they had new colors, they had a bunch of other stuff come out. So they actually had new order forms come out at that point. Okay, I mentioned this earlier. I was hoping this would be in here. I wasn't sure. Again, I'm going through this stuff with you, same as I'm doing it live. So here's the two Moroni labels. So here's the first one that was printed. It was printed on 8/14. So this is the one that came in with the car. Then they would update it when they had all the prices. So that one's dated 9/19. So this one was printed, August 14th, right after it was built. And chances are, so the SPD was 8/20. If this was printed on 8/14, chances are the car was probably built on 8/14, because the first Moroni label you see that left the factory is generally when it was built and left the factory. Again, SPDs do not mean the day it was built. It's just scheduled production date. I mean, it's a good guide to get a, kind of a narrow window of when it was probably built, but SPD is kind of all over the place. It doesn't really matter. You can't tell exactly when the car was built. So with the 8/14 on there, my guess is that was the day it was actually built and left the factory and put the window sticker on it. So this would have been shipped to the dealer without it, and then they would have sent the updated one later. This is just a photocopy of the other one, I believe. It looks like it's the same as the other one. All right, last piece of paperwork here. So this is the advanced dealer shipping notice. Again, this was printed right after the car was built, and again dated 8/14/69. So they would have probably mailed this to the dealer to know that the car was built and have all the specs. But this one, again, doesn't even have prices on it. They hadn't even figured them out yet. But these are the weights, which are kind of interesting. The weights were, it was really important to get those right. In fact, we just got a book from a friend of ours, Cody, that we're going to feature next week on our channel. That has like extremely detailed versions of all these weights, which is just it's just kind of cool information. I love this. So the car was, dry weight was 2,985. Disc brakes actually saved you weight. The drum brakes were heavier than the disc brakes. You actually saved 13 pounds by going to disc brakes. Power brakes added 10 pounds with the booster and everything. Carpet protection mats added 9 pounds. That seems a little high, but I don't know. What am I supposed to know? Sugar differential added 48 pounds. Again, that seems like a lot. Undercoating and hood pad insulation, that added 40 pounds. I can actually verify that. We had a 1964 Barracuda that we raced in the 24 Hours of Lemons, in an endurance race. And I spent 3 days scraping every bit of undercoat off that car, and I saved all the pieces because I was really curious how much it weighed. It was just the wheel wells, not underneath the car, and it was like 40 pounds. Like, it was insane how heavy that undercoating is, but it's a good sound deadener. That's why it's heavy. Evaporative emission control added 6 pounds, and the body side, actually the radio added 7 pounds. That actually doesn't seem like enough, because between the radio and the speaker, that's actually a lot of weight. Side moldings didn't add any. Deluxe wheel covers didn't add any, which again is kind of interesting. You would think those would have added weight to the car, but what do I know? All right, just want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I love nerding out on these little details and numbers. I just think it's cool documenting these cars and see what kind of history we can find on them. Every time I go through one of these folders, it's like an archaeology hunt. I just love doing it. You always find information. I always learn stuff every time I go through one of these. So, all right, well, thanks for watching, everybody. This is Tom with Rocket Restorations, and we'll talk to you soon.